All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive here on Stock Explorers. We always try to bring you the most interesting companies and the most compelling stories, and today is no different. I think you're going to find this one really fascinating.
Yeah, I think we've got some really interesting stuff to dig into here.
We've got a ton of material actually on Snap Inc.
We do. It's amazing how much there is to look at with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a company that so many people know, at least for, I think, a long time. It was pretty much known for that disappearing photo app, right? Snapchat.
Right, that's how they birthed onto the scene. And for a while, that was really their identity.
And now they've really kind of broadened their horizons, haven't they? I mean, they're pushing into augmented reality hardware, they're doing all sorts of things, really diversifying.
Yeah, and our goal today is to really understand a few key things about where they are right now and maybe where they're headed. How did they actually achieve profitability? Because that was a big milestone for them recently.
Right, was
And then, what are their revenue streams that are looking really promising?
mm,
We're going to try to understand what makes Snapchat Plus so appealing, because clearly a lot of people are signing up for that.
yeah, the subscription service.
Exactly, the subscription service. Then we can dig into how they're incorporating AI.
Because everybody's talking about AI these days.
It's everywhere. And then finally, we can't forget about those spectacles. What's the future hold for those?
Yeah, yeah. Let's start with this kind of big headline, right? They achieved profitability. It's the first time in 3 years that they've done this, and it happened in the last quarter of 2024.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And, they recorded a net income of $9 million. Now, that might not sound like an enormous number when you think about some of these, tech giants, but compared to where they were the year before, it's a huge swing.
It is a huge swing.
Because in Q4 of 2023, they had a net loss of $248 million.
Yeah, so to go from, that deep in the red to actually being in the black is a pretty big accomplishment.
It is. So what do you think were the main things that kind of led to this turnaround?
Well, I think you got to start with their revenue, right? I mean, you see this big jump. Their Q4 2024 revenue hit $1.557 billion.
Wow.
That's a 14% increase year over year, which is really significant because for a while there, their growth had slowed down.
Sure, sure.
So this is a sign that things are really picking up again.
Yeah.
And, it's not just one thing that drove this revenue growth. It's a few things working together. But I think a standout performer, for sure, has been the growth of their subscription revenue.
Yeah, you're talking about Snapchat Plus.
Exactly.
Which I've got to admit, before we did this deep dive, I didn't really pay that much attention to.
Right. Well, a lot of people didn't, I think, initially.
Yeah.
But their other revenue, which mostly comes from Snapchat Plus subscriptions, it jumped a whopping 131% year over year in 2024.
Wow, 131%.
Yeah, that's incredible. And they are now at an annualized revenue run rate of over $500 million. And it's not just the money, right? It's also the subscriber numbers themselves.
Yeah, how many people are actually signing up for this?
Exactly. Well, they doubled their subscribers in 2024. They went from 7 million to 14 million.
That's huge.
It's huge. So that tells you that this thing is gaining some real traction. Now, beyond subscriptions, advertising's also doing really well for them.
Okay, that makes sense. Advertising's always been their, I guess, bread and butter, right?
Yeah, it has. They've actually more than doubled the number of active advertisers year over year in Q4 2024.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sign that they're making progress with their advertising platform, making it more attractive to businesses, making it more effective.
Sure.
And we saw strong growth, particularly in something called direct response advertising. So that's clearly an area they're doing well in. Now, beyond just revenue growth, there's a couple of other things I think you should keep in mind
Okay.
that really contributed to them getting into the black. And one is financial discipline. They've gotten really strategic with their investments.
Ah, so they're not just spending money everywhere.
They're not just throwing money at every shiny new thing.
Right.
They're being more careful, more deliberate. They're managing expenses better. They're improving operational efficiency. And all of this resulted in a 73% increase in their adjusted EBITDA and a really nice 60% adjusted EBITDA flow-through.
Okay.
And finally, their cash flow position has improved a lot.
That cash flow king.
Exactly. They generated $182 million in free cash flow in Q4 2024, which is a 65% jump from the previous year.
Right.
And their operating cash flow reached $231 million in the same period. So those are all really positive signs.
Yeah, it sounds like they're really starting to kind of, I don't know, mature as a company, right? Like get a handle on all these different aspects.
I think that's a good way to put it.
And not just being this, sort of flash in the pan kind of app.
Right, yeah. And so now let's kind of, shift gears a little bit and look at those revenue streams.
All right, because you mentioned a couple. We've got the subscriptions, we've got the advertising.
Right. And so advertising is still the main driver, right? Like that's the bulk of their income.
Okay.
It's roughly, I think it was between 90 and 93% of their revenue in 2024, which in total was $5.36 billion for the year. But even within advertising, there are some interesting details.
Okay.
Which I mentioned earlier, direct response advertising is performing really well. It grew 14% in Q4 2024. And they're also seeing a lot of success with app-based purchase optimizations. That grew over 70% year over year in that same quarter.
So that tells you that their ads are really working, right? Like people are actually seeing those ads, clicking on them and buying things.
Yeah, exactly. They're becoming much more effective at delivering results for the businesses that are using them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really encouraging.
So that should keep advertisers happy and, coming back for more. But, we keep coming back to this subscriptions piece.
Right, because it's hard to ignore.
Yeah. I mean, 131% growth year over year, that's a big number.
It is a big number. And then with that well over $500 million annual revenue run rate, you can't just dismiss this as some kind of side project. It's a real part of their business now.
Yeah, 14 million subscribers, that's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people.
Paying money every month.
Exactly. And you know what? That's actually really good for them in terms of predictability.
Right, because advertising can go up and down.
Right, exactly. I mean, advertising is always going to be, kind of subject to economic conditions. And so if the economy slows down, advertising budgets tend to get cut.
Makes sense.
But with subscriptions, you have that recurring revenue coming in every month, which is a lot more stable, a lot more predictable.
Yeah. So they do have some hardware. We talked about spectacles before, and I know that they, at one point, had that little drone, the Pixie.
Yeah, the Pixie. They actually discontinued development on that, though.
Okay, so spectacles is the main one right now.
Yeah, spectacles is really their focus when it comes to hardware. But the revenue from hardware is still pretty small compared to advertising and subscriptions.
Okay.
But here's what I think is really interesting. The investments that they've made in AR and AI,
Right.
those are actually indirectly boosting both their advertising and their subscription offerings.
How so?
Well, think about it. When they develop new AR experiences, new filters, new lenses, that makes Snapchat more engaging.
Sure.
And that keeps people using the app,
Okay.
which means advertisers are more likely to reach their target audience.
Makes sense.
And then on the subscription side, if they offer exclusive AR features to Snapchat Plus subscribers, that makes the subscription more attractive, more valuable.
Right, so it all kind of feeds into itself, right?
It all works together. It's a really smart strategy.
So let's talk about Snapchat Plus, the subscription. What's the big appeal? Why are so many people, 14 million, willing to pay for this every single month?
Well, I think it comes down to the value they're offering.
Okay, what are they offering? What are they giving people?
Well, first of all, they've really expanded what Snapchat Plus includes.
Okay.
As of 2025, they have over 40 exclusive features.
40? That's a lot.
It is a lot, especially when you think back to when they launched it in 2022. They only had 6 features.
Wow, so they've been busy.
They've been busy adding stuff. And these features appeal to a lot of different kinds of users, different interests, different needs. But I think one of the big draws is early access.
What do you mean by early access?
Well, if you're a Snapchat Plus subscriber, you get to try out new features before anyone else, new filters, new messaging tools, new AI enhancements. You might get access to these things weeks, even months before they're available to regular users.
So it's kind of like being a beta tester, but you're paying for it?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But you also get that, sort of feeling of exclusivities, like you're on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
You get to try the newest stuff first. And then they have all these story enhancement tools.
Okay.
Like you can set custom story timers. So your stories can last anywhere from 1 hour to a full week.
Oh, wow.
They also have this feature called Story Boost, which gives your stories priority placement.
Oh, so more people see them.
Exactly. Your story's more likely to show up at the top of your friends' feeds. And you also get advanced story analytics, so you can see who rewatched your stories and how many times.
Okay, so that's cool. It's giving people more control over their content and how it's seen and who's seeing it.
Exactly. It's giving them insights that regular users don't have.
Yeah.
Now, beyond that, there are also some AI-enhanced creative tools that people are really liking.
All right, so this is where the AI comes in.
Exactly. And there are a few different examples. They have these custom Gen AI stickers, which is really cool.
Okay, what are those?
Well, basically, you can type in a message, and it will automatically generate a sticker based on what you wrote.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It uses AI to come up with these unique stickers that personalize to your message. And then they have this AI movie poster lens, which they call Dreams. Yeah, Dreams. And basically what it does, it takes your selfies and transforms them into these really cool kind of cinematic scenes, like you're on a movie poster.
So using AI to make it look awesome.
Exactly. It's all about creativity and fun.
Right.
And then they have these extended snaps, which are interesting. Basically, you take a photo, and the AI can kind of zoom out and expand the view.
Oh, wow.
So it's like it's creating more of the scene around you.
So making a small photo into a bigger photo,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. And then they have AI captions, which can automatically generate captions for your content.
Saves you some time.
Saves you some time and effort. Now, beyond the creative tools, there are also some social connection features that are popular.
Okay, so stuff that helps you connect with your friends.
Exactly. So with Snapchat Plus Stake, you can pin your #1 best friend to the top of your chat list.
Makes it easier to find them.
Exactly. You can also have an extended best friends list, so you can have up to 16 best friends instead of just 8.
Okay.
And then there's this feature called Peek a Peek.
Peek a peek? What is that?
Well, it basically tells you if one of your friends is kind of half swiping into your chat.
Oh, so you know they're about to read your message.
Yeah, it's like a little heads up. It's kind of funny, kind of creepy, but some people like it. And then they have a bunch of personalization options like custom app icons and themes, chat wallpapers, generative profile backgrounds.
So you can really make it your own.
Exactly. And even basic communication gets some upgrades. You can edit chats after you've sent them.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, if you make a mistake. And you have expanded emoji reactions.
Okay, more emojis.
More emoji, always good. So as you can see, there are a lot of benefits to having this subscription.
It's a pretty impressive list. I mean, no wonder so many people are signing up, get all this extra stuff, all these extra features.
Right. And what's really interesting is how they've positioned Snapchat Plus as a generative AI product.
Okay, so it's not just a bunch of random features.
It's not just random stuff. They're really leaning into AI.
Yeah.
And they're making it a central part of the value proposition for subscribers.
Makes sense.
So it's not just about getting a few extra perks. It's about getting access to these AI-powered tools and experiences that can enhance your creativity, enhance your engagement.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that they launched it with like 6 features, and they're up to 40 now.
Right. And just in 2025 alone, they've added even more AI-driven features.
Okay. Like what?
Well, they enhanced their My AI chatbot. We'll talk more about that in a bit. They added custom AI stickers, which we already discussed.
Yeah, those are fun.
And they also introduced that movie poster-style AI lens.
So they're really, putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to AI.
They are.
They're not just talking about it, they're actually integrating it.
Exactly. And I think that's a smart move because AI is only going to become more important in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned the My AI chatbot. What can it do? What does it do for people?
Well, it's kind of like having a little AI assistant right inside Snapchat. So let's say you're curious about something. You can ask it trivia questions, and it will try to answer them.
Oh, like a little walking encyclopedia.
Oh, exactly. Or let's say you need gift ideas for someone. You can tell it who you're shopping for, and it will give you personalized suggestions.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty handy. It can even help you plan trips, suggest activities, come up with meal ideas.
Wow, so it's a real multitasker.
Yeah. It can even generate creative content. Like if you want to write a haiku, it can help you with that.
So, I mean, it's not just a utility, right? It's actually trying to be kind of, I don't know, fun and engaging.
Right. It's like a little AI companion. And the more you interact with it, the more it learns about you and can tailor its responses.
That makes sense. It's like kind of getting to know you over time.
Exactly. It's really well integrated into the app, too. You can access it right from your chat screen.
Oh, that's convenient.
Very convenient. And it's also connected to Snapchat's Here For You tool, which is a really important feature.
What's here for you?
Well, it's basically a resource for mental health and wellness.
Okay.
So if you're feeling down or you're struggling with something, you can access Here For You right through the app.
Okay, so it's like a kind of a support system built into Snapchat.
Exactly. And what's cool is that My AI can actually connect you to those resources if it senses that you're talking about something related to mental health.
Oh, that's really, really smart.
Yeah, it's a really thoughtful feature. Now, behind the scenes, My AI is powered by these really sophisticated large language models like GPT-4 and Gemini.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, these are some of the most advanced AI systems out there right now. And they're constantly updating and improving My AI based on user feedback.
Okay, so it's getting smarter all the time.
It's getting smarter all the time. And you know what? When they first launched My AI, it actually was a big driver of subscriptions to Snapchat Plus.
So people were signing up just to try out this chatbot?
Yeah, it was a really popular feature. And you know what else is interesting? It's not just Snapchat Plus subscribers who are using AI on the platform.
Okay.
Over 400 million Snapchatters engaged with new Gen AI lenses over 4 billion times in Q4 2024. So that tells you that AI is really catching on across the board.
Yeah, it's becoming mainstream.
It's becoming mainstream. And, they're even starting to launch branded AI lenses.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, for example, in 2024, they launched the first branded Dreams AI lens. So, a company could partner with Snap and have a custom Dreams lens that's, specific to their brand.
Oh, so there's a whole advertising revenue stream there potentially as well.
Yeah, exactly. It opens up a lot of interesting possibilities for brands to connect with users through AI.
That's cool. So now let's look ahead a little bit
Okay.
to the future. What can we expect from Snap in terms of financial growth?
Well, based on the average forecasts, analysts seem to be pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
They're projecting revenue growth of about 15.9% in 2025, followed by 12.9% in 2026 and 11.8% in 2027. So, still double-digit growth.
Not bad.
No, not bad at all. But what I think is even more interesting is the projected growth in earnings. So their annual earnings growth rate is expected to be a whopping 55.8%, with EPS growth also around 55.2%.
Okay, so that's significantly higher than the revenue growth.
It is. And if we look at specific EPS estimates, they're projecting 37 cents in 2025, 54 cents in 2026, and 78 cents in 2027.
Okay.
They're also forecasting that their return on equity will reach 5.5% within the next 3 years.
So overall, very positive outlook.
Yeah, I mean, a lot can happen between now and then, of course. But based on what we know today, things are looking good for them.
Yeah, definitely. But I have a question. You mentioned this big difference between the projected revenue growth and the earnings growth.
Right.
Why is that? Why are earnings expected to grow so much faster than revenue?
Well, there are a couple of things at play here. First, they're recovering from a low profit base.
Okay.
Like we talked about, they only recently achieved profitability. So even if revenue grows at a moderate pace, their earnings can grow much faster because they're starting from almost zero.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like, if you start with $1 and you make $2, you've doubled your money. But if you start with $100 and you make 110, you've only grown by 10%.
Right.
So it's all relative. Then there's their operational efficiency, which we've discussed.
Right.
Remember that 60% adjusted EBITDA flow through?
Yeah.
Well, that means that for every new dollar of revenue they bring in, 60 cents of that is flowing directly to their bottom line. That's huge. Then you have margin expansion.
Okay.
Their Snapchat Plus subscriptions, those probably have higher profit margins than their advertising business.
Sure.
Because, once they've developed the features, the cost of providing those features to additional subscribers is relatively low.
Yeah, it's mostly fixed costs at that point.
Exactly. And so as that subscription revenue becomes a bigger piece of their overall revenue pie, their overall profitability goes up.
So shifting towards higher margin stuff.
Exactly. And then there's also the fact that as they grow, they benefit from economies of scale.
Right, so it's cheaper to add more users now that they've already built the platform.
Exactly. Their existing infrastructure can handle more users, more activity without them having to spend proportionally more money. And finally, they've been really disciplined about cost control.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So all of these factors combined mean that even steady revenue growth can translate into really strong earnings growth.
Okay, that's really helpful. It's a good reminder that it's not just about how much money they bring in, it's about how they manage it.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about spectacles.
Okay.
Because this is, to me, this is the really interesting kind of wild card in their portfolio.
It is. And for Snap, spectacles are really at the heart of their long-term vision for AR.
Okay.
They believe that augmented reality is going to be the future of communication, the future of how we interact with the world.
That's a big bet.
It is a big bet. And spectacles are their way of betting on that future. They're not just a software company. They want to be a hardware company, too, in this AR space.
And the latest version, the 5th generation spectacles, those are pretty advanced, right?
They are. I mean, they're standalone AR glasses. They have AI-powered lenses. They have hand tracking. They can do real-time AR overlays.
Wow.
It's really pretty impressive technology. And the idea is to create these immersive, hands-free AR experiences.
So you can walk around and interact with the world, but you're seeing this extra layer of information, this extra layer of, fun stuff.
Exactly. And what's really smart is that they've also made spectacles a platform for developers.
Okay.
So through Lens Studio, developers can create their own AR experiences for spectacles. And that means that there's a growing ecosystem of content for these glasses.
So it's not just Snap creating stuff, it's other people too.
Right. And that could potentially open up new revenue streams as well, through sponsor AR experiences.
So a brand could create their own AR experience and people could experience it through spectacles.
Exactly. So, it's early days, but it's definitely a space to watch.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, how do they compare to some of the other players out there? Like Apple has the Vision Pro, Meta has their Ray-Ban smart glasses. How do spectacles stack up?
Well, they're all kind of taking different approaches, right? So, with Spectacles 5, you get a 46-degree diagonal field of view that's not as wide as some of the other devices out there. They use see-through waveguide displays, which is different from what Apple's doing with the Vision Pro. They have hand tracking, but they don't have eye tracking yet. They're powered by dual Snapdragon processors, which is pretty powerful.
Okay.
But the battery life is limited. It's only about 45 minutes, and they're a little bit on the heavy side at 226 grams.
So you probably wouldn't want to wear those all day.
Probably not, at least not yet. And right now, they're really targeting these glasses towards developers. So you have to subscribe to this program. It's $99 a month, and you have to commit for 12 months.
Okay, so not for your average consumer yet.
No, not yet. And then you've got Apple Vision Pro, which has these really high-resolution micro OLED displays. They have a much wider field of view. They use a combination of eye tracking, hand gestures, and voice commands. It's a really impressive device.
It's expensive, though, isn't it?
It is very expensive. Then you have Microsoft HoloLens 2, which is kind of more geared towards enterprise applications. It does things like spatial mapping and hologram sharing.
Oh,
It's
wow.
pretty amazing technology. And then you've got Meta Ray-Ban, which is they're trying to make these smart glasses for everyday use.
Okay.
So they focus on things like taking photos, taking videos, using voice commands, and having a touch interface.
So they're going for more of a, mass appeal.
Yeah, exactly. But Snap, with Spectacles, they're really focusing on social connection and integration with the Snapchat platform. So it's all about creating and experiencing AR content within that ecosystem.
So it's kind of their approach is to really get the AR technology into the hands of creators and developers and build up that community.
Exactly. And then eventually, maybe down the line, they'll have a consumer version that's more polished, more affordable.
So when do we think that might happen? When might we see a consumer version of Spectacles?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, nobody knows for sure. But Snap executives have said that they're still working on it. They're still trying to get the technology right. They're trying to get the cost down.
Okay.
Their goal is to have glasses that are good and affordable enough for a wide release. And some people think that could still be a few years away.
Okay.
Because right now, the cost of manufacturing these things is reportedly in the thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really expensive. And there are still some hardware limitations like the weight and the limited battery life.
Sure.
But they are making progress. Like in March 2025, they added GPS capabilities to Spectacles, and they improved the hand tracking through software updates, so they're actively developing it, which is encouraging.
Yeah.
But if you compare them to something like Meta's Orion prototype, for example, Orion seems to be a little bit further ahead. It has a wider field of view, it's lighter, it has better battery life, and it has more sophisticated control methods.
Okay.
So, Meta's really putting a lot of resources behind Orion, but Spectacles have the advantage of being available to developers right now.
Right. So they're kind of getting a head start in terms of building that ecosystem.
Exactly. But it seems like Snap is taking a more deliberate approach. They're not rushing to get something out there just for the sake of it.
They're being patient.
They're being patient, they're focusing on getting the technology right, and they're waiting for the cost to come down.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Let's bring this deep dive to a close. Can you summarize the key takeaways?
Okay, so the big headline is that Snap has finally achieved profitability.
Yes.
It's a major turning point for them, and it's largely due to strong revenue growth, particularly the success of Snapchat Plus.
Right, the subscription service.
Exactly. And, what's making Snapchat Plus so attractive are all those exclusive features.
Yeah, and AI is a big part of that.
AI is huge. They're really positioning Snapchat Plus as a generative AI product. Now, looking ahead, analysts are really bullish on their future growth.
Yeah, they're predicting strong revenue growth and even stronger earnings growth.
Exactly. And that's because they're starting from a low profit base. They have high operational efficiency. They're moving towards higher margin products, and they're benefiting from economies of scale.
Right.
And then you have Spectacles, which is really their bet on the future of AR.
Yeah, it's a long-term play.
It is a long-term play, and they're making progress, but it seems like a consumer version is still a few years away.
Okay, well, this has been really, really interesting.
It has been.
Learned a lot.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we did. So to everyone listening, this analysis was based on the information that we were given, but it gives you a good sense, I think, of where Snap stands today and where it might be going.
It does. And if you want to learn more about Snap or other companies like them, make sure to subscribe.
Hit that subscribe button.
Hit that subscribe button, like the video.
Like it.
Turn on notifications so you don't miss our future deep dives.
And before we go, I want to leave you with a question, something to think about. We've seen this really impressive shift from Snap. They've gone from struggling to make a profit to, finally getting there. And it's been driven largely by subscription growth, by their really smart use of AI.
Right.
And they have this long-term vision for augmented reality with Spectacles.
Yes.
But here's the question. What do you think is the single biggest risk that could derail this positive momentum? Is there something out there, some threat, some competitor, some change in the market that could really hurt Snap? Or, on the flip side, is there some unexpected opportunity, some new technology, some new trend that could really accelerate their growth even faster? It's something to think about. And we'll see you in our next deep dive.